All right, we're going to settle into a horizontal chest opener. So what you'll need is a bolster horizontally across your mat. You'll have a block right in front. So the block should be at its lowest setting so that the lower back can find some, basically some elongation from your low back up into the kind of the middle spine spaces for the bolster support. So we're going to sink into a chest opener first. So I like to have one blanket behind under my head. We've been doing this for a long time with two, but I almost always go down to one. So if you want to start with two blankets, stack up a second one. Otherwise, you're going to really help your respiratory system, right, if you have less blanket. But if it feels too much, then you go back to two. So sit on your little block right in front of your bolster. Have a belt nearby, okay? And then if you happen to have a sandbag, just slide that across the kind of the hip hinge here. And as you guide your back and kind of the firm detail of your abdominals to lower back, kind of feel as the feet guide in towards your seat, the curved path through the knees down to the tibias, tibia time, and then let your head certainly lower back. If you're surprised how far back this feels in the beginning, the ribs will start to open up and you'll be able to relax your neck. Let's think these thoughts and maybe they'll happen. Okay, so as I place the sand across the thigh lids, I'm going to extend my legs down. And if you happen to have the fortune of a wall nearby, you might enjoy kind of setting yourself up so your feet touch a little bit to the wall. And mostly the balls of the feet, maybe the heels aren't touching, maybe they are. And maybe there's no wall touch at all. But as you let the hip structure define its stability in the center of our bodies, right? So we have center of gravity and pelvis. If your back feels a little achy for this beginning, you can always walk the feet a little bit in towards your seat. And the most important part is to open the chest. So move any props aside that are distracting your ability to let the arms completely release. Fuss around. If you haven't done some of these shapes for a while, you might decide, this doesn't feel right on my back. Situate yourself until you're in a situation where you can find openness through the ribs, the elongation of the belly, and just let your eyes close. And feel the slow motion of the breath. Notice what lifts in the center of the body. I have to admit, I feel my ribs are kind of pulled outwards. My belly has a little perky motion, but just trying to find a complete thoracic, like a thoracic abdominal motion with one breath. It's going to take me some time. So this whole practice, I think you eventually arrive towards the end where you're getting the whole centerpiece of the body to feel the contribution of your breathing to settle and calm your nervous system. So it's a process. So let's take about another minute here with this chest expansive focus. And just know that we're going to be continuing the process of opening up in this area. Certainly we're going to cool the feet in the next few moments when we take the legs up. So having some focus right now with respiratory motion, right? The ribs, the belly, the centering of your spine. Now with the arms relaxed, maybe in the next few moments, you might take a cobbler's pose, which would be just to slide the feet back in so the bottoms of the feet touch the floor first. And then the soles of the feet. Now, I know it might feel a little awkward with sand, but it might work out just fine. Sometimes we take the sand off and we put it across the rib intersection. And sometimes it feels like it's about to fall off, but it kind of feels nice because it's like this little kind of belly traction at the lower belly where it's clearly an area, lower abdominals is kind of a dormant area, but essential to awareness of the movement, kind of saturation around the organs. The leg pits are close by. And just take a few more breaths here. If the feet are sort of together, but they're kind of open enough that you can't feel the sole connection, that's fine. My feet are turned out and they're not pressing together. I'm letting the adductors, the inner leg pit, gently stretch. And now kind of tap into a sensation of your feet towards your seat, and then just take the Sand-Aid away over to the side. Always keep it nearby. And you're going to start to shift your bolster a little further down to the back of your pelvis. Now, on alert, you don't want to go too far down with the bolster because then if your back is achy, then you have to get it back up. So start slow. Let the feet widen out and then guide the neck to lengthen on one blanket. If you have two, go down to one. See if you can get the handles of the bolster, or maybe you just push the bolster down with your elbows. I'm going to try that because I haven't before. Push the bolster down a little bit, okay? And then see if you can lift your feet off the ground and hug your knees a little bit towards your chest. Now, if that's enough support, keep with that. If you decide I'm going to go a little further down, a little itty bit, and then as I lift up my feet and the knees curl inwards, kind of notice, is that just the right amount? So your pelvis is at the edge of your bolster, just the right amount. It's pretty important to find it's perfect so that you're not off the bolster with your seat, but the bolster is supporting some of the lower rib spaces, the barely little rib space. And then what I want you to do right in this moment is to get a ball, and you're going to glide the ball so it's center of the knees. And I want you to bring right knee into the chest and then left, so you're going to alternate. So I'm going to show with my hands so you can see you're gliding the ball and just getting some circulation balance. So we're going to work through the lower back, through the inner thigh, but just start with a little bit of rolling. You only want to do so much so the ball doesn't roll out. So you're kind of tentative with relaxing a little bit in your feet. The knees are definitely pointing towards the sky. Just a little bit of roll. Arms are opening out. Still feeling the chest slightly expansive. And then as the knees center in, I want you to have the feet off the floor for certain. Don't let them go back down. And squeeze the ball and relax the squeeze. So they'll feel like kind of pushing into the ball, activating the adductor, the inner leg, and then relax the squeeze. Take about 2 more squeezes. Make sure it feels like it's the right spot that's squeezing into the ball, right? In fact, you don't want the ball too high, too low. Okay, and then just relax the squeeze and let the knees go to the side to side, just simply shifting right to left. And when you go side to side, you will find is the bolster in the right spot. This is probably about when you'll notice, okay, it's a little too high, a little too low. You don't want your back to feel achy, but you want to feel like it's putting a little bit of dent into you, a little pressure to help you strengthen in your abdominals. And of course, this practice is somewhat cleansing, right? So if you're feeling kind of in an overheated mode lately, take it slow. Don't go too fast. Slow the practice down. Even if you get through a little sequence and you get a little sleepy, you can always just be You don't have to keep adding like I do. Okay, so go side to side and take just a few more moments. And notice the separation of lower body from upper. One part has movement, but also the waist gets a little bit of movement here. Now just guide the knees to the right and just let them be over there. Have the ball between them. Kind of feel if you want to use a block under your knees, that can, you have one spare block to the side. One's probably below your bolster, but you could use a block under the knees. I'm just going to let my thighs shift to the right and kind of lower down and let that left arm stretch open. But feel if you want to place the right hand to the side of the left thigh, that might be a nice approach to center. But let's just take another couple breaths. Just a short phase here of elevated reclining twist. Okay. The abdominals, you can feel the movement into the abdominal area, across the waist. Breath, moving that center body. Okay, now come back in after more than a couple breaths. Okay, take it slow, go to the other side again if you decide. Oh, good idea to use my block. Perfect. Okay. Sometimes just holding the legs in space is not appropriate, right, for your back muscles. So you might find just have the ball center of the knees. Okay, you might place the left hand to the side of the right leg. And you might roll your head to the right. We'll be doing plenty of twists, right? We'll be doing twists that are hopefully not creating too much heat in the body. So try to have some elevation of the hips here, which creates some cooling in the legs. But let your head roll to the right. Left hand could be on the floor. It doesn't have to be holding the leg. You choose. Now feel if you can let the awareness here in your back towards your tailbone. Like visualize the tailbone, even though you're on your side, it's kind of a tricky area to bring movement towards. But when you go back into center, okay, let the body wobble a little side to side, just a little bit to kind of reroute the back muscles. And then take the ball, hold on to it, and I want you to bring the hands, so you're holding the ball between the palms, and as the arms stretch back overhead, they don't have to go all the way, like to an ultimate reach. They might be kind of almost, or they might be all the way back so they feel the blanket. But I want you to bring the left foot to lower to the floor, and the right knee is going to stay in towards the chest. Now just reaching the ball now to the right knee. So breathe in, ball towards the right knee. And then exhale, take the ball overhead, bring the right foot down. And just take a few moments where you're alternating ball towards the knee, or you could say knee towards the ball, okay? So it's arms reaching back overhead, left foot down now, both hands reaching to hold the ball. I think you need two hands to hold the ball, and then move the right knee in. Now you might be on a different pace than I am, which is great. And I kind of played with this a little bit, the orientation of this. You might decide to have your knees both up when you alternate knee towards the ball. But I think it's an interesting way of recruiting your lower abdominals and the posterior right core, right, to the lower back behind you, okay? So feel the alternating reach, and this might be the slowest you've been going, right, with moving your feet, or maybe you have been going pretty slow. Take a few more. So just maybe two. Let's go one on each side, just for the knees moving. Alternate. Now, one thing you might notice before we do brain float here is the back feels like it's getting some warmth of movement. but not the hamstring. Like there's zero, well, lower back, but not really a hamstring effect. So as you hold the ball overhead, see if you can just keep that reach with the arms, not a focus of squeezing the ball. Okay. Press it to your feet. Okay, scoop the tailbone under for a moment and just make sure that you wiggle enough so that you feel like this bolster is supporting your center. Okay. Now place the ball over to the side and take a belt. If you want to kick your feet up and do a little bit of legs up and center for a few moments, that's perfect. If you want to have your feet on the floor and just take the setup slowly, articulate the movement, perfect. Some of us will stay here, some of us will swing our legs up and have a little tantrum before we get to brain float. I like the tantrum before. Okay, so make sure your belt is buckled up. You've got a very large loop. Important, it should be big loop. Okay, now the buckle part should be in an area on the side that you can easily maneuver. Obviously, you don't want it under your foot or under your head. So as you bend the right knee, scoop up the right foot. We're going to need sand. So lower the left foot down. First, kind of check in with your foot sensation, right? I like these because I can articulate movement of my foot, kind of a basic movement, nothing overdone. But as we have the leg up, you're going to find your sand. If you have a bag of weight by chance, and you're going to let the left leg release down and place the sand on the top of that left thigh. Okay. You can kind of turn the sand, you could pivot, you could have it loaded as high on the hip as you want. Now, if you feel like your back is a little bit sensitive, you might put the sand quite a bit higher. And notice if that supports your back, okay? And as you take your belt, I think my loop is just a little too ambitious here. I'm going to make sure that belt is possibly going to go behind your head at the occiput. So we're going to go right to the shelf at the back of our head or a little bit above the shelf. And then decide by pulling on the belt to make it maybe shorter, maybe longer, the loop, bigger or smaller. And then let the weight of your head release back into the belt. You might just touch around the neck and just make sure that that area is tractioning, not shaking. If it's a little shaky, make the belt loop a little bit wider, right? So a bigger loop so your head can lower down to the blanket if you like. And if you decide, no, this isn't my thing right now, you can always bring your hands together inside of the side of your head, inside of the loop, the belt, and then slide it off your head. Stretch the hands back together. So my thumbs would be together, the belt would be at the web space between the thumb and the index fingers. Yeah. This is a good cooling one. I think this is an opportunity to take right now to cool off. The foot will be cool. There might be some heat where the sand is at. But the sand is nice for grounding. So even though it has a little bit of, it's like not a warm blanket, but some of us might consider it adding to the heat, but it's certainly going to help you with traction and grounding. And so let your head release back and receive the pose. That's a part of this whole experience, is receiving each shape and the circulation that it provides you. And if the leg is not really feeling it, like it wants to cooperate, it's resisting so much more, you might let your head really lower back to the blanket and just slide the belt so it's just a little bit, it's at the above the shelf at the back of your head. You might find, oh, that's kind of nice. Even though the hamstring's feeling it, you can always bend the right leg. You can make more, just give yourself more slack on the belt. Breathe again. Let's reach to the belt first, okay? And as you decide, some of you will find that your coordination is fine to keep the belt behind your head, shift the sand to the belly, shift the foot up in the belt, lower the right foot down now, left foot up, and sand to the right thigh. But some of us will find, no, not going to happen. We got to take the belt off our head first and then change the sand. And I suppose keeping it behind your head is kind of nice because you have a holder. You just have to switch the foot and the sand. Okay, so we're taking what's called brain flow to the second side. So I've got my bolster still under my pelvis. If your foot touches the wall, that's pretty great. That's great because you can bring the foot to go straight up, but not all of us have that perfection of wall is there now. But the leg is up. A little caution, if you look at it and it looks like it's hyperextending, it likely is. So you might have to, get a hold of the back of the left thigh for a moment and just notice if your foot is turning out, it's not going to be that ideal. So I want to maybe hold the leg slightly, not perfectly behind it, but just find that neutral position for my knee. It's not turning out, it's not twisting. But this is a nice one for, right, if you've got, of course, we all have retention in our legs from standing on our feet. So kind of reversing that flow in the leg, that gravitational pull down to our feet, reversing the effects of gravity, fluid retention, inflammation. But some of us might really let the head lower to the blanket. This leg feels a little different for me. So it feels pretty good with my head floating up and the belt helping me lift. Last side was a little bit tighter. So side feels better. But for you, you might decide to, it presents itself to bend the knee a little bit for some of us. You don't have to stare at your leg or your foot. You can close your eyes. Feeling all the awareness that's flowing through, but ultimately breathing. Again, receiving the practice. You showed up. This is a huge part of just being here is experiencing the circulation from the pose. It's a daily, hourly experience with our body. So as we take care of it, we breathe into it. And now, what might be interesting is this kind of isolates the leg. You might be not really feeling your back as much, you might be. But when we shift this one, I want you to just move the sand away and hold the back of your head with the belt. Slide the right foot in, and then grasp onto the belt on the side of your head. Slide it off your head. Let your head relax on the blanket. That's key. Maybe nod your head side to side. And then bring the right foot up into the belt. Okay. So I kind of like this Viparita Karani variation. So if my feet, of course, legs up is cooling, right? This is cooling for the body. We're going to do a little series of cooling work back and forth with other postures we sequence to work on flexibility. But as your belt is in a big loop, the loop might be a little, it might be too much, but you're going to place the palms together in the belt so the thumb is holding on, the web space between the thumb and the index has the belt. It's kind of interesting, right? For the hand, gives a little bit of stretch into the palm, a little bit into the thumb. Just let the legs be straight up, and as the pelvis centers, okay, you're going to bend the knees. The knees should come apart again, and then push the feet out, and the knees must go outwards. And then you can either hold the belt or just let go. Feels kind of good to use the props wisely and let them help me You're gonna have to succumb to using a lot of props and restorative. Huh? Flexibility with using props. So as the feet are outwards, the pelvis is arching, and the legs, this is so nice. You might finally feel that your feet are cool. Like internally, I don't, maybe your environment is cool or something, but you cool it off. But internally is a big piece here. Circulation in my legs. Now let's redirect our circulation in a few moments into our hips. And let's bend the knees. And we'll reach up to the belt with both hands. And as you slide your feet together, scooping in the knees, take the belt off the feet. I'm tempted to use the belt. Let's see how we go with this. All right, so hands on bolster. And you're gonna bring the knees to your chest. And I think with a lot of caution here, right? You don't wanna shock the sacrum, the back, so go slow. Lots of kind of mysterious core exercising here. So as you push the bolster, hold the knees in, right? Use your lower abdominal, squeeze the knees in, and then downwards, the bolster goes below your feet. And just take a moment. You might have to push it down so your knees aren't so upset about it. And let the knees go side to side, windshield wiper. Okay. So pelvis is now arching through the hips. Let the knees swing. The feet have to be at least a little wider than hips distance. I like doing this with a bolster under my feet because the idea is your feet should be almost as wide as the bolster. And oftentimes when you teach this without a bolster, people's feet are kind of close. So the bolster distance is helpful. If it hurts your knees, of course, you've got to bring the feet to an appropriate support for you. But let the knees go side to side, get your ball, and just kind of feel where this glides into the glutes. And you might not be feeling, oh yeah, I feel my glute area. It might be kind of getting there. Okay, so place the ball to the left buttock, okay? And so it's kind of in that center upper part. And then when the knees go back center, you're gonna push into your feet, lift a little bit to roll the ball. It's already kind of stuck to you a bit. And then you're gonna press down onto the ball, kind of feel what that's like, right? Because most of the time we think of pressing with our hands, but right now it's an area you don't really think of pressing into. But you're gonna roll side to side to massage into that left glute area. Side to side. So as you go side to side, massaging into the glute, it should hurt, should feel like it's just a little bit of sensation, and it's pressure. Okay. So just lower back down the right buttock. Now this is one option. I prefer the ball at my sacrum, so the very last bone of the spine feeling, right, very base, and then left ankle to right knee, and then bring the knees to your chest, okay? I like the ball with that spot because it makes me feel some balance challenge. And it also feels like my back gets kind of scooped into this lengthening. Okay, and you might decide, nah, I don't want the ball there. I'm gonna do figure 4 without a ball. Left ankle, right knee, bring the knees in. Perfect. Okay, you decide. If you wanna keep rolling out your glute, you can do that too. All right, so as you hold on to the back of that right thigh, yep, your right leg could kick up. You could stay flowing just in front. It could lower down. You don't over energize in your leg right now. Most of us were really just trying to find some blood flow, some circulation internally. Of course, that happens if you're living, right? But we're trying to support doing these therapeutic shapes. Okay. We're just passing them down through the population. All right, now when we come out of this one, all we're gonna do is switch. So left ankle uncross, both feet down on the bolster. Lift up the hips, Move the ball. If you don't already have it under, get the ball, place it under the right buttock, lower the weight. Just, it's kind of tricky to think about just letting the body weight naturally rest on the ball and then side to side. So what I tend to do is keep rolling with it. I tend to focus on the ball roll kind of over into the side, kind of close to my lateral rotators. I don't all the way go down to the, IT band down to the side and low. But you might find, you start rolling a little different than I am, right? You might find, oh, my knees really bugging me, and I'm going to get the ball really far down and roll there, come up and sit. Perfect. You got to do what works for you. But this on the back and then just moving the hips side to side. The key is to wag your tail side to side, big part of it. But feeling the motion and the waist centered, and then moving into the hips and balancing. Okay, that weight is pressing into the right glute area. Breathe. So feeling the weight into the right glute, feeling the weight into the hip, cross fiber through that right hip, arms relaxed. I'm getting kind of attentive with my arms moving, but keep it simple. And what you might do is just kind of getting that awareness into the hip. You might just start to bring the ball at the base of the spine, right ankle to left knee, and then bring the knees towards the chest, or pull the back of the left thigh with or without the ball underneath. I know placing the ball under and adding a pose is kind of a lot, but if it works, just keep going with it. Yeah, find what can relax. Maybe your eyes, maybe the face. Perfect opportunity to center back. Just feel how the hips balance. We go one hip at a time often, but every opportunity in between is a balancing moment. So I'm going to place a moment of just feeling where my tailbone centers on the ball. Let go of the leg. You happen to have the ball underneath. You're going to push into your left foot. Take the ball to the left side. And then I want you to push your bolster over to the right side of your mat and take a simple hip crossover. So left leg crosses over to the bolster. Ball is at the sacrum. And if you want to add your sand to the left outer thigh, this is a perfect opportunity to do so. If you decide, nah, I don't want to add sand, but it kind of feels nice because, well, we don't have to say why, but it feels nice to have the sand on the exterior leg, but it might feel like you have to have it higher up on the hip versus closer to the knee. It depends on how the knee responds to the pressure. Sometimes some pressure down to the IT band can feel good. You can jostle the sandbag a little bit back and forth until it settles. And as the left arm stretches open, we can let our eyes maybe close, our head turns to the left. Spending some time kind of warming up into the back. I should probably not say that word, huh? Okay, so creating some mobility in the back before we come up for our kind of cooling forward bend. So this is hopefully getting some flexibility in that area. So when we sit and try to lean forward, we can do that. So both hands can relax, or you can have one hand onto the rib spaces or the sand. Feel that crossover in the hip. Let the body receive the pose, feel the weight of the body relaxed into the ground. Now I have the bottom leg bending on this one, and I found that that helps me quite a bit with the motion in my top hip. So just keep that in mind in our reclining twists. I guess the only time that wouldn't be true is if your pelvis is up on the bolster. That might not work so well to bend the bottom leg. And there's a reason for that, right? The bolster, we're not on the bolster right now as far as under our hips, but it kind of promotes that lift of the pelvis. This is crossing over the pelvis. And as we get ready to switch, kind of notice where the contacts are of the props, right? The sand. So helpful. Okay, so slide the sand away and then place the ball over to the right side. Okay. Caution when the knees go in center. You might want be one that just swishes them back to center. I like to kind of go slow on the bones, feel the back of the pelvis, the foot comes down, both feet across from each other, kind of move my hips into center. And then you can take constructive rest, knees together for a few moments, rest them in, and then take the bolster to the left side of the mat. Okay, reorient yourself so you're still on your mat, unless you're on a carpet, right? Some people don't need a mat for these practices, the restoratives. The left leg relaxes down. So this is when I find it important to bend my left knee just the right amount. And then I try to move through my low back. So I swing the right leg over on top of the bolster. And then I add the ball. I really like the ball for the sacrum. I find this to be, some days maybe I need it more, I guess. Okay, take the sand, place it on the outer right thigh. Be supportive of your bones, right? Let the weight be on the bones. That's another part of this weight, the sand thing. It's not just we ground and traction, but it's weight. So right arm moves out, open the chest. You can feel the ribs, the waist stretching, the right arm is out, as I mentioned. And one side might feel a little disturbed right in the chest or the shoulder. So you might have to bring the elbow really low or bring the hand down by the side. It doesn't mean you have to express completely out with that right arm. Okay. It's a little challenging. You feel the sensation in the chest area. Go for it. It's numb and tingly. Don't go for it. Now let the belly move with the breath. Twists are for the organs, right? That's one of the main focus points in this position is for my organs. Give a few moments to notice the movement in that area with the breath. You might be most comfortable with your head centered or maybe turning to the right. It only helps. Now just bring some focus to the back plane of the body. Just noticing the twist, the circulation. We'll use that instead of the word warm today. The circulation in our back, and our hip. I hope you're feeling the leg part, right? It's clearly this is a hip stretch. And we're going to be adding to that, right? We're going to come up in a moment here, do some seated forward motions into pigeon. So it'll be nice to kind of cruise around the low back into the hip again. So just kind of notice this. I mean, all the poses are different structured sequence, but they're kind of all, they just change position from back to seated. It doesn't take much to realize it's all the same, huh? But as you take the ball away, maybe the sand and the ball, you choose what's first. Keep the ball nearby, don't toss it across the room. And move the sand, that can't go far, I'm sure. But take the time between right now. If you want to squeeze the knees to your chest, do so. I like to take it slow, just roll to the side. I don't feel that I got to squeeze my knees in, but when I roll to the side and come up, I'm going to probably use a couple blankets on this one. So get a couple blankets just in case. If you decide to go down to one, that's fine, but more might feel like a support for your back. It's not for support for your seat as much as it lifts your hips up. So when you take a forward fold, you're moving out of your hips, not your poor back, right? The poor back. Okay, so let's take this motion. What we're going to do is take our bolster forward, and I want you to place your, I know this is not mirroring you, but your left foot is towards the blanket, the left knee is up, and there's a ball under it, okay? All right, so you're seated on one or two blankets. Your right foot is on the bolster. Okay, left leg has the ball under the knee. If you don't have a ball, you can use a block, it's fine. If you use a block, use the lowest setting. All right, so when I'm seated here, I'm gonna take a little bit of turning. We've done some hips, some twists, so we're gonna work with our seated forward fold. Take a sandbag if you have it. If you don't, you're gonna use maybe if you have a bag of weight of sorts at the left thigh. Go really high up on the leg. There's only so far up you can go, right? Unless you have a belt around your sandbag or something. But make it a hip hugger so it's not gonna affect your knee at all, okay? In fact, if your right foot needs to come out, or hey, if this is just too much on your knee to bend this way, period, you can let the left leg stretch out and put the ball under the knee. Now that feels good. Okay, I like that. All right, so either leg is reaching to about 10, 11 o'clock, or the knee is bending. And we're gonna take a block, place it behind us at the low second, or I'm going for the high setting here. And I'm going to take my time to hold onto the right knee with the left hand and take that block so it's far enough away from you that you can straighten the arm a bit, the right arm, okay? So if I have my block too close, what happens is my shoulder rolls in. To look at your shoulder, that it's actually, you're trying to roll it back, okay? And keep with it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to go with the shoulder to motion it back. Arm is reaching like so, shoulder back. Take a few moments. Shouldn't feel like it's extreme, but your work is in the alignment here. So left hand can hold knee, can hold the shin, you choose. Okay. Now when you move forward, let's take the block over to the side. Take the right arm across the chest, left arm under right arm, just kind of cross the arms, intertwine the arms, and then lean forward. So this is the arms are in a crossover. So you take the right arm over the left, intertwine, and then lean forward. Okay, and let the elbows kind of soften down. This is a good one for cooling as well. For some of us, it's just hard to get the arms wrapped this way. For the mobility, if it's kind of easy for you, then it's a good one to repeat. Don't forget about this one for your circulation. It's more heart, lung meridian. Maybe you don't feel like it. What's the point of this? But there's other areas we're focusing on besides just the physical appearance from the outside. Come back up center. Try to lift the elbows a tiny bit. I think that's a tiny bit. But that's probably my max. Okay, relax, kind of brush off, roll the shoulders, and then let the right foot reach out from the bolster. You're gonna step to stretch the leg out, and then take your bolster. I hope you got a firm bolster. This is where a good bolster matters. And you're gonna lean forward. Again, if your left knee doesn't tolerate the bending, you can scoop the left foot a little farther in front, or you can let it stretch out. Just don't overdo it on the knee here. As you lean forward, your back is in that sensation of length. Kind of a funny thing to think of it lengthening here because you're creasing at the hip, trying to keep the movement in the hands on the bolster, leaning forward, breathing. Come back on down. Push the bolster in front. Now we're going to go into pigeon, and I'll show a variation if you're not in a pigeon. So first things first, put the sand on the side. You've got no block behind you. Lower the left knee on the ground so there's no ball underneath it. Take the right leg to stretch back. I really kind of like this one with the 2 blankets under my seat. And then when I lean forward, I can put my elbows on the bolster. This to me is a little too narrow with my bolster, so I'm just going to turn it to horizontal and then come down to the elbows. So my left knee, right, it's still in that bending position, last bend on this knee angle to stretch into the hip. And some of you will just push your bolster all the way out, a little further front, as far to the wall as you can go, and bring your forehead down. Okay. Those of us not in pigeon, we're going to have both of our legs to stretch out into a wide stance to about probably 10 and 2 would be really good versus 10 and 2, that would be good. Okay, if you feel like this is too much on the knee, just use a block. Unless you happen to have a, something a little bit more cushiony, like a blanket. Don't go shopping right now for blankets. So they won't arrive in time. But you'll have your block if you want above the back of the knee. This is those not in pigeon on the left pigeon. And then lean. Okay. Some of us, the knee's not going to tolerate pigeon, so we've got to find an option. So this is Upavista Konasana. Wide forward bend. That's a super good one for cooling. I like that one a lot. But the blocks are nice too. I love that. So those of us in pigeon, we're going to take a few more breaths here. Don't do it if it feels too much. If you're kind of on the edge of feeling pigeons, okay. Another thing you could do is put a ball under your left buttock. And it's surprisingly very helpful. Okay, very, very helpful for my knee. Because it's not pulling as much across the very side of that knee, right into the IT band, which can be kind of messy, right? Pulling that area. Okay. All right, now let's come out. So if you're in pigeon, you're going to take that left hip down, swing the right leg forward, switcheroo. So right knee bends. Sand is going to go on top of that thigh. Ball is under the knee on that right side. If you're in wide stance, just bend the right knee or let the leg stay stretching out. Okay. And then bring the left foot up. Take a block. Place it behind you. Left foot up on the bolster. I think this is the key. So, hopefully this is okay on the knee. I know the knee's out here, but still sometimes the angle can make an angry knee. So be sure that it's okay. Work on the poise, right? So lifting up with the spine. Sometimes I focus on the parts on the props too much and then forget about, it's still about my spine. So the curves of the spine. Okay, and then as the sand is as high up on the right thigh as you can get that, ball underneath, turn to the left, hold on to that left knee or below. And then as you start to take that turn, you want to keep the chest up. You want to maybe close your eyes and then reach back so there's a block somewhere back there. Surprise yourself. Where is the block? So the left hand is onto the block. And I try to keep the arm pretty straight. right? And part of that might be how you pull with the right hand to help you coordinate turning to the left, right? And then my elbow bends a little bit there. So I have to work on reaching. Now we're all different with our flexibility in the arm. I think some of us would be surprised, right? With the mobility in our elbow, hypermobility for some. So just feel what works for you. I just give kind of sometimes a random instruction that may not always work for everyone. So if you need to bend your arm, bend your arm. Okay, but try to keep the left shoulder so it's not rolling in. You might tilt your left ear to the shoulder. Just breathing. Let your head maybe nod. And now relax the grip with the right hand. Bring the block back forward. And depending on where you're coming into the next shape, we'll just let the left leg stretch out. And again, you can put the block under the knee if that feels good for right now, and then lean forward. Now, even if you feel like, oh, my leg is okay, but I'm going to try the block. It's not under the knee, sorry. It's just above the back of the knee. It just makes it so much more comfortable. So tilt forward. Feel if you're moving your body forward from your back. I want you to try to work into the hips here when you go forward. So feel the hinge at the hips, right? So it's not just, you don't want to isolate just your upper body to do all the work. So this is why kind of getting our hips kind of juiced and stuff is helpful when we're in the beginning of the practice today. So lean forwards. If this is not working with your bolster height, you can always do things like put a block under your bolster. And then you might go, oh, I feel taller in that one. So I know the props just bring the floor up, right? That's all they do. You won't want the floor to lift up anyway. So as you tilt forward, take a few more moments. Warm up the arch of the spine. Come back up. Now, if the area that's getting kind of sleepy, right, might be lower abdominals. It could be. When I tilt forward, I almost push a bit, and then my mid-back area kind of gets a little bit more circulation. So when I come back, I'm going to try to lift up my chin just a little bit, try to find that line in the front of the body. And then as I take the bolster and let it go forward, okay, I'm going to demonstrate coming into pigeon next. And if you decide, well, wait a minute here, everybody, I just realized we didn't take our arm twist. So take a moment, bring your left foot up onto the bolster, turn to the left, you can't miss it. Left arm forward, cross the right arm under left, intertwine the arms, elbows up. Please remember. Okay, so feel the elbows lifting, breathing. Okay. Bring the elbows down, lean forwards. Okay, feel where the back muscles in that rounding position come back up with the arch, breathe. Okay, unravel the arms, roll the shoulders back. Okay, all right, now, pigeon people, sand goes away for everybody off the thighs. The only reason you might keep sand is if you're going to do the variation, which I'll show. It'll be a little different than last one. So left leg stretches back, right hip down. Now, again, if I'm leaning into my right buttock to the blanket or blankets, and you feel like coming back center is a little tough on the knee, or just it's basically feels stiff, place a ball under the right buttock. It really makes a difference. I just love having that ball under the seat and supporting me. Even if I come down all the way, even if you were deciding to come down to the elbows or down to your hands, or put your forehead onto the bolster if you're not too close to the wall. Okay. That's pigeon. Now those of us taking a variation, we're going to take it so both legs are somewhat balancing. So have the feet a little bit wider onto the mat, so the knees bending, the feet down, and then take the forward fold, take your bolster. This is those not in pigeon. Place the block underneath the bolsters to the short end closer to your center, not farther away, on the short end close to you. And then bring your hands down onto the bolster. Okay, knees bending, feet down, bottoms of the feet down. And feel the knees kind of squeezing towards your arms. Sleeping tortoise pose, right? The sleeping tortoise is where you would have the legs lift up and wrap around the back of your head, but let's not do that. Let's skip on that part. We'll do the prep for it. So I really like this one, cooling. Those of you in pigeon, enjoy the right pigeon. Breathing. And if you're here and you decide it's just too much round in your neck, you can push down with the elbows. You could bend the elbows and place the palms on your forehead. There's all different ways. There's so many options, right, that can be useful. This is a good one if you're in pigeon and you want to try it and you have trouble with squatting, the knees don't work well with that, or you don't have that range of motion. This is a really good one to work on. Okay, so you just sitting bones, comfortable on 1 or 2 blankets, bolster underneath my elbows, right? And you might want to try it before we come out anyway. So the bolster, the short end is on top of the block. The block could be any height, and you could bring it up if it's hard for you to get down onto the bolster. And these blocks are great. They're great props. They just help you out with so many things. Feet on the ground. So come out of pigeon. Those are in pigeon. And we're all going to kind of give this just a second. Those of us already in it are going to fall asleep this way. It's a sleeping tortoise after all, huh? Okay. So feel the back in that little bit of rounded space. Take a few more breaths. Ribs expand and contract. Okay, now press into your sitting bones. Okay, we're going to work on the side channel. So you're going to come on up and hopefully you're near wall space. So what you're going to take is the bolster's going to go across the mat, so horizontal, and blocks can go to the side. If you don't have a wall space, have the blocks on the other side of the blanket. So I'll show you how you would set those up. But for now, we got a blanket stack, and we're going to put it on the other side of the bolster close to the wall. Okay, so now we're getting wall bound. We're going to put the rest of the class is wall. Okay, well, this pose is not that wall oriented, but it's a nice reach for shoulder ease. Okay, so we got our bolster across. We're going to go into side sage. So the right hip is near the bolster. 2 blankets, I like 2. Some people go to 1, but I'm pretty close to the wall. Because I'm very short, so you might need to be a little further back. Okay, so get a sandbag, place it next to your right knee, and then take that left leg. So my left thigh, it swings back. Now, if that hurts your knee, if you're feeling like it's achy, then maybe have your knees together for this one, okay? So, or your knee is closer to your right foot. But if your knee is not so happy with this kind of thing, do use a ball on the inside. There's several people I know that just push their knee down, but if you look at the alignment, it's kind of twerking, in the hip. I'm not super excited about that version, but to each his own. So take your right rib cage down on the bolster and then add your sand to the exterior left side. It could be hip, it could be ribs. Right arm down, head onto the blanket, and left arm up. Now you might be too close to the wall, so you might go, uh-oh, and then you just scoot a little further down. So if you don't have a wall, what you would do is you put a block on the side under your hand. Okay, I'm a big fan of the wall for this one. So I try to let my pelvis have a natural rest on its side and feel my lower back, feel its curve. Right arm is between, head is resting into the blanket. Your left arm starts to get tired. You can always rest it down on the side, your left side. Perfect opportunity. At some point it will be ready to just let it go. Most important, let your head relax. First, feel the brain rest. You need to roll the back of your head a little bit, but take the moments here. Just breathe. Relax the weight into that right hip. Okay, and then maybe let the left arm span open to the left so you can let your head simply roll into the back. Just breathing. Now feeling the rotation. So as we get ready to go to the second side, you might decide, okay, you might roll onto the back and get a nice chest opener in between. Be cautious here. I would take the sand off first. Just toss it over to the left side. And then you might make your way down to your right shoulder area, right? The right rib cage and shoulder. Bring your head down towards the bolster and then come up and sit onto your sitting space, not the bones, the sitting bones, because you're actually rolling from the back of the sitting bones into the back of the pelvis. And then just let your chest open. Now, probably by this time in the practice, if you've been practicing this whole time, your back is warmed up enough to do this. Now, when we started, it probably wasn't. So this is something to notice how far you've come, right? In the practice, like, oh, my back, it actually can go into mountain breath. Okay. So as the chest stays open, the bolster is the perfect prop. I suppose a round bolster would be good for the whole side stage series, but it might be a little intense, right? If you have been not practiced for even a week has gone by or two. So let the chest just gently open, breathe. Okay, now we go to the left side. Now this is about rib cage. So if the hips feel like they're just going along for function, that's part of life, right? Parts of the body go along for function when other parts are featured. But roll left and take the right leg reaching back with the ball under the inside of the right knee or thigh. And then when you transition to the left side, you know, again, you're trying to make it easy on yourself, not harder. So if you feel like you're too close to the wall, pull your blankets back, right? You're on the ground, so you're not far from getting yourself back to another shape. So you decide, but as you, yeah, it might be too close. You might, oh, I'm gonna try getting further away from the wall to see if it changes things up. Right. So as you reach that left shoulder, this might be really good for some of us in our shoulder. Some of us are going to turn left more than we are back around the corner, right? But how else are we going to work on these areas to get good circulation? This is a great opportunity for self-care, health-care here. Really good. Just kind of work through the inside out, take your time. And no rush. If you feel like you're going to stay kind of halfway into the shape and then slowly eke your way into it, take your time. Make time. So feel that side body. Feel the reach. Breathe. Now feeling where the breath is in motion. It might feel stuck, you know, who knows, maybe you don't feel it right now, you're holding it, but circulate inside with the breath. Few more moments. And now we're going to kind of put it all together, so to speak, here. So when we move the arm down, we're going to keep going left. So when we were on the floor, a few more, we've been on the floor this whole time, but when we were on our back with the hip crossover, we were in the same angle. Her leg was crossed over versus the right leg back right now. So we're going to come around full circle here. So we're going to go left. And as you bring the right knee towards the left leg, take your time coming up. Push the bolster far away from the wall. Take one blanket and then toss another. Blanket tossing practice. Okay, come around so that your knees are on the blanket. Now, if this is a bit much with the wall behind you, I know some of you might be modifying a bit, but your knees could be on the edge of the blanket. They could be center. Some people, it's easier on the knee when the knee is right on the edge, right? So it's a different pressure point on the knee, but you decide. I want you to have your bolster a little far away from this one. So palms on the ground, push, reach forward, and then let the back gently stretch. Let the chest reach back towards the legs, or the hands stretch open. Maybe your forehead touches the floor, maybe a bolster. Maybe you go, well, I don't want to put my head down that far. Maybe the bolster under your forehead feels good. Up to table. Alternate rounding the back to cat. And then alternate arching the spine. So arch and flex. Just arch the back on inhale. Flex the spine on exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, arch. Exhale, flex, chin to chest. One more time, inhale, arching. Chest forward. Exhale, rounding. Toes under, lift the knees up. Stretch back to downward dog. So maybe the heels are up at the wall. I kind of like this with the heels up. I love having a wall for my heels to lift. Of course, you might not have a base board. You might. Excellent. It's kind of deluxe to have. Okay, pushing the floor away with the arm stretch, chest opening. Yeah, at the end of the session, you might go, oh, well, I can get into this okay, because you've had all these times to open up in the chest and the ribs. Okay. Now a little caution in our forward bend here. We're going to walk our hands on back towards the wall. You're going to move your feet away from the wall because I don't want you to take a somersault. So you got to walk your feet a little forward. It can be a little awkward, but we'll take our seat to the wall. Okay, forward fold. Hands hold the elbows. Cooling pose, super cooling. Now let the weight of your head relax down. And use the wall for your position. This is key to use the wall to sit at the wall. Cool off. Breathe. Okay, now as you start to release, you're going to come back forward, caution. So as you crawl out of this, we're going to actually crawl onto our bolster. So walk on forward, take your feet back to the wall. You don't have to touch the wall specifically, but bring the knees down. And as you take your bolster straight underneath your core, I want you just to let your body lay down on the bolster. I like a blanket on the other side under my head. I don't find under my elbows actually. I like to have that extra little bit of height for my arms. So I actually feel they get a little stretch. It's not a lot, but it surely isn't when my arms are on the floor. Am I getting any pull in my arms? So, kind of think about some of these simple looking, pretty easy, not much going on, but doing something for circulation. So forehead onto the arms. Just let the breath move around through the rib cage, the low back. Feel the knees resting on the blanket. Let the buttocks relax for a moment. Arch through the spine, so lift your head up. Notice if you can strengthen through your back by just lifting your head up. Maybe your glutes fire and activate again, but maybe they don't. Maybe you use all spine strength. Inhale. Exhale, lower your head back down to your arms. Tummy time, one more time. Inhale, lifting up. Push down into your arms, lift your head. Feel the back actually get a little bit of strength here. Relax the buttocks. If you can't, that's okay. Sometimes they activate anyway, like I said. And then this time come down, but bring the arms back by your sides, palms towards the legs. So you can even kind of tap your legs a little too potent, it doesn't hurt, huh? To the side of the thighs, a little bit up towards the rear. And then see if you can bring the hands to reach to the legs and lift up your head. And then bring your chin just a little towards your chest. Take the arms to lift up. Give it a try. Let the shoulders try to roll back. I'm sure there's select glute muscles now that are starting to wake up to protect your back, right? Bring the hands to the floor. Elbows kind of out to the side. They kind of wing out, don't they, on this one? And then push and see if you can lift into upward dog. Oh, this feels good. So try to be with this for a few moments. If the bolster this way under your center doesn't feel good, you can always, now those of you stay with this one, but you can always turn your bolster horizontal. Some people like this better. I feel like the other variation, it's easier. Yes. This requires a little more kind of gut power. So it's probably a good one too, but my back feels a little more achy on this one. So I'm trying to find what's easy going for my back. This feels fine. Okay. Now come back to hands, knees, cat cow around the back, chin to chest. Arch the spine. Okay, we'll get one last one before legs up. So if you want to take child's pose, I know some of you are child pose people. You want the knees out, but if your knees are cranky, I wouldn't do it, okay? So the hips are back, the forehead is down. I would take your bolster, push it forward, place it under your forehead. Right, those of us that are not going into child's pose, here's your variation, right? You can stretch the arms forward, let your forehead relax down. Knees apart, feet apart. Okay. You can use the bolster under your elbows to kind of stretch your back. That's why I like this one. And there's no reason why you would do this if your knees were a little bit cranky, right? So my bolster's under my elbows, right? It's under my elbows. It's not under my just my forehead, right? My elbows are on it. Stretching my shoulders. But you could have the hands farther forward. It's not farther forward, but the bolster farther forward. That could work too. As we're in child's pose, now as we come up, okay, we're going to switch it around. We're going to come down onto our seat and take your bolster right at the wall, so flat across. Yeah, don't put a block between the bolster and the wall on this one for cooling if you can help it. Okay, I don't want you to have to arch more and get more heat in the body. So you're going to take the blanket back, so it's going to be under your head. And those of you that like an extra blanket on you, I don't think this time of year you're going to be putting more blankets on you, but you know, who knows? Okay, sitting on the bolster towards the right side, got your sand nearby, and you're going to lean. Now, this is a good cooling one. So roll on the shoulder. Now, if you find that that's a little difficult, everyone has their way of getting upside down. And if you don't use a wall space, you can put your legs up on a chair, on a bed. You can place the bolster on top of a couple blocks, bolster bench. Yeah. Sometimes you get into it right away and then you kind of slide out. So guide the blanket so it's under the back of your head, and then taking your sand, and you're going to layer the sand on the feet. Okay. Now, if you're feeling a little struggle with getting your sand up there and it ends up on your belly and you can't get it up to your feet, that's okay. Like goalpost, and there you are. That's not a problem. Some people like this. Some people, the sand can go a little bit higher, maybe on the ribs. But if you can get it on your feet, you might have to draw the knees back and apart quite a bit and just toss it. I suppose you can take a chance and try to toss it up there unless somebody's around to put it on your feet. Okay, let the spine be supporting this curve in the lower back to get the hips up. And then as the back muscles probably center pretty fast, the arms go out. If you have an eye pillow, place it across the eyes, or use your natural eye pillows, your eyelids, to relax the eyes. And just turn the focus even further into the length of your inhale and relax on the out breath. Even if you're not necessarily feeling that, right? From exhalation comes relaxation. So just consider just practice, and it comes around to help you to center, to calm. Now just accept this is the optimal circulation you can receive right now, not even considering should I have a more advanced pose or have my hips higher, just reversing the flow of gravity to the heart, the brain. Just use the bolster to help you with that arch. Right? Sometimes we press into our back to create more clearly arch, but all you're doing is letting the prop do all the work. So in some ways, the more you can let go and just receive the support from the prop. Now, there's like two elements here, right? It's the bolster, and for some of us, the sandbag. And the sandbag helps bring that direct circulation, reverse the effect of gravity on the heart, and the leg parts too, the gravitational pull on the bones, on the leg pits, the groins, the lymphatic shift, right? So that's the last piece to focus on, that the gravity of this position, right, helps the lymph return, and then moving down into the blood that moves into the organs of elimination. It's transported right through the lymph and the blood. A little science piece. And now finally, just let the feet shift a little bit away. You might just drop your sand overhead. You might find you have to bend your knees to do that without pulling your knee. And then let the legs come back up. You might let the knees part a little bit side to side, kind of let your hips move side to side. It's kind of tricky with the bolster, isn't it? You can't really wag your tail. But you can jostle the tissues a bit. And then just let the knees bend enough. You can just let the feet shift off the wall so the spine is really in this nice, interesting reach. It's flexing. The upper part of the back is trying to extend. Just roll side to side or go all the way to your side. You're ready to come up now and then roll. If you need to stay upside down longer, if it's like I'm getting cooler and you feel it internally, just stay upside down and then come around to take a seat. And take a moment for the community here to center together. You bring the hands up in front of the heart. Feel the palm to palm, your own universe inside. New effect. Breathing and wellness to yourself.